Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I have personally just gotten back from a cross training with Robinson Taekwondo and moving with the Etchamali boys and Braxton. And that's always nice because Braxton's my size and the Etchamali boys are very good at what they do. We also cross train with Master Josh Parks group from Pleasant Hill. Great group of kids as well. So we got to see them move around a little bit. Anyway, so today and this week we're breaking down Handipour Seighalani from Iran against Jang Joon in the CHIBA Grand Prix. Now, a little bit of background. We have Jang Joon, who is a dynamic fighter. He has a monster left leg, especially in the clinch. And what I like about him is he's not all front leg centric. He has some back leg. He almost plays it old school a little bit, which I really like. He every time he's fought that I've seen, he's won against Seighalani from Iran. He's beat Seighalani. And Seighalani, this is actually usually the height difference we see from these two. Seighalani is usually a little bit shorter than his opponents. And despite that fact, he's always on the medal stand. He's always in the finals, like here in CHIBA and Grand Prix. And it's because he has an amazing and dynamic front leg that he uses cancel and score after. He uses that front leg to set up conditions to where he makes the opponent think he's going to do one thing, does the other thing, gets his points that way. And so I thought these two meeting again would be an interesting breakdown. I've broken down these guys fighting before. So now we're going to see how they do this time around, what adjustments there are, what small things we can pick up from these guys, and let's take it from there. Let's get into it. After you guys have fought for a while, even at the highest level, everyone's still kind of buddy in a sense that we're respectful and that high fives before, after, no big deal. I do have the volume muted for those of you guys who are tuning in for the first time because usually there's a Jay Jones or the announcer coming in. What we see here is Jang Joon motioning a lot, obviously, to try and set up an offensive stance. And Iran making sure he doesn't just fall down and let him do whatever he wants. Iran, for those of you guys who have not watched Seighalani before, likes to keep and fight and engage at this distance right here, this mid-range distance. He, even though he's shorter, he very rarely moves back. He's almost fighting on the line right here at all times. So you can kind of expect him to either engage you at this distance or for him to move forward. And I like that he's able to do that because it shows a lot of front leg strength. And even though he's smaller, he doesn't get pushed around by the bigger guys. So keep that in mind as you're watching this fight. If that's something you guys don't do yet, something you guys might want to try doing, improving your cancel until where you can stand on the line of scrimmage and not have to go back every time a bigger guy cuts against you. Jang Joon very wary of this already. Trying to find a way around that front leg without getting scored on. Cut to the light. Nice try with the flick. Very good pressing the advantage there. Nice try. Nice try trying to exploit the opening by Jang Joon. If you ever find your opponent off balance, his back is turned, that's the easiest way to score points because they have no defense. So instead of, it sounds kind of bad, like, oh, you're attacking while your opponent's back is turned. It's your opponent's fault for not being set or ready for your offense. And so that's, feel free to take points. Referee's not interfering. Feel free to get points when you can. Nice head kick. All right, I kind of want to break this down a little bit just for, I'm sure a lot of you guys got it. For those of you guys who didn't understand why this worked, I'm not a big proponent of a single technique. So some people will look at this headshot and go, oh, well, he moved forward on a cut headshot, and so I should go forward on a cut headshot, and that should work for me. It's not just the kick. If you guys want techniques and stuff, there's other channels for that. I know Sammy Morris, Phil Yoon, I'm not sure if he's still putting out content, but he had a lot of good videos too. And then Alex Wong, also great people to check out for technique. I'm here more for strategy and for setting up how to do things. So the reason I want to go back and show people this, because the reason this works isn't just because he has a monster front leg. He sets up a lot of the first round. He got his first 2 points like this. He sets up a lot of this first round with just a single cut, and then single cut and a flip. And what that does is it conditions Jang Joon to expect only the single. I think this is where he gets it. So single cut. So Jang Joon is used to absorbing the first cut and being able to reset and do whatever he wants. So in his head, if Seighalani doesn't hit on the first point, we're gonna have a second to reset. We're gonna be able to reset, and I can try and do my offense again if I want to. Seighalani, very wise to this, conditions his opponents to do that. See, single cut, that's the second one. Gets pushed back a little bit, and instead of just going for a single to the body, he went forward a little bit and then went to the face. So a lot of times, here, 1, 2, I think that's the second one. So it's a single cut to the body here, and the 1, 2, and it's a 1 and then a second to the head. Part of it, I think, was Jang Joon was trying to look at the score to see if his point scored, but a lot of this Seighalani's Iran's setups are based on that. I'll cut single to the body, kind of lull my opponent to sleep a little bit, and then 1 and 2, which is how he scored the first point, and then the 1, and then the 1. This one went to Jang Joon's face, got the 3 points and secured it that way. With the singles again, he's like reconditioning Jang Joon to go to the body. He followed up there because it seemed like Jang Joon's off balance a little bit. And a smaller side tip: a lot of the time after an athlete gets scored on, so let's say you get kicked in the face, a lot of times you're in your head, you're thinking, oh, how do I make this point back? Or you're thinking, how do I get around that first technique, whatever. And so a lot of very good players, much like Seighalani did here, he'll follow up right after that to score more points. If you watch the Azerbaijan, I'll cover this later also, the finals between the welterweights minus 80, Azerbaijan and Azerbaijan and Russia. Azerbaijan scores a hook kick, and instead of letting Russia try and mount his offense and think about like, how do I get around this, near the end of that same round, I think like 10 seconds later, Azerbaijan goes on the offense again and not increases his lead, not only by the 5 points he just scored, but he scores 2 more body shots, which I think puts him ahead by 9, in addition to the 2 points he was already ahead there. And so the point of me mentioning this is, after you score a headshot or any kind of point, you can immediately try and see if try and maximize on that situation where your opponent's thinking, oh, how do I get these points back? Maximize and go on offense and try and get even more points, which is what Seighalani was trying to do here. Long rant, but kind of necessary. Good. Jang Joon's using more motions now. Good follow-up. Seighalani, the reason he's doing this back head thing, for you guys who don't know, is because he knows Jang Joon's front leg is really, really good. Or not front leg, excuse me. Left leg is really, really good in the clinch. Nice. So Jang Joon's whole strategy right now is, how do I get past his front leg? Like, how do I get past Seighalani's front leg, because that's where he's scoring. And if I allow Seighalani to, especially after this first 2, I'm not sure if you noticed, Jang Joon mounts more of an offensive stance. He goes in a lot more, because if he's letting Iran dictate when to go in, that's when he got scored on. And so on these first 2 points, he cuts all the way in. He cuts just to get all the way in and to score his point there. Start correct, cancel. This is what I was saying, where Jang Joon has to mount more of an offense, because the last 2 times he got scored on, Seighalani was mounting the offense against him. So Korea says, we can't play it that way anymore, because that's where I'm losing. I'm going to go on offense and try and find holes that way, because the other way is where I lose for sure. At least this way, there's a little bit of a chance of me scoring. And Jang Joon with a flick kick to the body. Nice, finding a hole. The second time he comes in, he's saying, just get past that front leg and score later. Boom. And that one on the inside. Very, very nice. I think a lot of the time Seighalani in this scenario wasn't ready for it, because a lot of times Jang Joon in the clinch would be satisfied with just going in the clinch, but this is the first time Jang Joon really made a play after he got close, which is why that side was open. I think later we see that Jang Joon tries this play again, but it doesn't work, because Seighalani is also a good player, wises up to it and adjusts. Oh, careful. Going for the gamjang. Nice. At this level, every little gamjang matters. Good try. So he tried to do it again. Seighalani is a little bit more on top of it. after he bypasses it, Jang Joon says, as long as I bypass this first cut and I can fall up on the inside, that's where I can score points. And Seighalani knows that this left leg is monstrous. It's very dynamic. Can go twist kick, can go body, can go face. Last time he went to the body and it was really easy to score on. So as soon as he puts it down, he's going to try and go again. Seighalani has his front arm ready to block. Make sure I have this closed, and there we go. Boom. He gets his arm down, ready to block. And there's that. He attempted that left leg to the head. I think right here they're kind of satisfied, just chilling, waiting. They kind of say, let's go back. So what kind of information do we have as Iran right now? Watch the inside game. When he gets close, either you need to be mounting your offense and pushing him backwards, or you need to shut it down. The other thing for Korea, the information is we can't go backwards against Seighalani because that's where all of his points are getting scored. You seem to be doing okay in the clinch on his offense that way, but when you're exchanging with this guy 1-to-1 from range, you're losing that fight, especially when he's on offense. So definitely that's the no-go. So second round, I'm expecting Korea to mount his offense a little bit more, and this isn't just because I've watched it more. This is I watched this before, I thought it was good, and then I'm rewatching it again for the first time. Korea mounting the offense this round would definitely be in his favor because he was losing when he was going the other way. That's what I would expect. And if I were Iran, go on the offense, obviously use what's working, and if you can, maximize what's happening in the clinch because he's open there. We're just not finding the right holes, the right places to kick. Okay, so kind of like I said, this might be Korea just going out of the gate offensively because he's down, but like I just said, you can't go backwards against Iran because that's what we're getting scored on. Therefore, I must go forward, and so that's what Korea is doing and looking for exchanges that way. Good. Also, small, subtle side tactic. I'm not sure in the U.S. circuits if they're going to allow this in the Philippines. I know that we follow international rules sometimes a little bit more closely because it's a smaller community. Here, I want you guys to take a look at Jang Joon's front hand. Jang Joon, it's not enough to just cancel because Seighalani's front leg is crazy dynamic and crazy good. What he does is he gets a full, this is his leg. You can see Jang Joon's hand right here guiding that whole leg on the outside. And so what that does is when he comes in, it really denies him, it makes it really difficult for him to like whip it back or to try and go into a flick kick, especially if the leg's to the side. And so what Seighalani will have to do if he wants to get around this is he's going to have to pull his leg back toward himself. And that will give Jang Joon a couple more seconds, or a couple more milliseconds, because this game happens really fast. A couple more milliseconds, he's going to have to pull his leg back towards him in order to shoot it out again. It'll buy Jang Joon a couple more milliseconds to maybe see what's happening. Or maybe, get his hands in the way properly. And so this is a small, subtle thing you guys might be able to take away in your own sparring is after as the cancel comes up, use this other front hand not to just block it, but to literally push the leg to the side that way. We'll keep watching a little bit just so you can see his motion. But you can see him like he's really just throwing that hand, he's throwing that leg to the side. So that's a small little tactic you guys can use on your end. Let's keep going, see how this is going. So remember this, we don't want that to happen, so we can expect Jang Joon to go on the offense more here. Yeah. Nice try with the trap. The downside of using a single leg is you're susceptible to spins. So just keep that in mind as well. Nice try. Trying to remount the offense here. Take a look how active Jang Joon's front hand is also in blocking. Because he's able to cancel and negate the front leg the first time around, Seighalani has to pull his leg back and try and go somewhere else. And it's in that draw that Jang Joon is able to see a little bit more and give himself a little bit more recovery time to maybe get his arm in the right place. And so now Seighalani's job is to, after accepting that your foot's going to get canceled and it's going to get pushed to the side, how do you score after that is the problem that Handipour has to solve right now. The Iranian. Nice. Trying to set up, he's trying to recondition him like he was before, the single into the cut flip. Didn't work that time. Jang Joon's a pretty smart guy. I'm sure any kind of alter knee raise. So if you do a cut kick in your knees in one position, you do a cut kick in your knees in second position, like in that same position. And if you raise it for a third time on your legs, just even a little bit off, really good players will key in on that and go, it's not going to the body anymore, because that leg raise is different than before. So for those of you guys who are trying to train this kind of a game, or cut flip or whatever, try and have your cut kick and then your cut flip kicks look the same as your initial cut kick. Because if it looks any different, really good players are going to key in on that and either back out of the way because they don't know what's happening, or if you guys have fought each other a million times like Jang Joon and Handipour have, Jang Joon's going to be a little bit wiser about, this is probably going to my face. It worked the first time, not the second time. So that was kind of a leg check. No gamjang. Also, the adjustment by Iran after Jang Joon closes the gap on him here. So tries for that. Jang Joon on the offense. So remember, the gameplay by Jang Joon is bypass the front leg, try and shoot him with your left. Bypass the front leg, shoot him with the left. He got past the front leg. I think this is Seighalani trying to do an in-out, and it just so happened to be a leg check. But Seighalani knows he has to be firing after his front leg is beat. After his front leg is beat, he can't just let Jang Joon sit there and try and score inside points on him left and right. Or in Jang Joon's case, on the left. And so he has to try and retaliate somehow. I think he was trying to go out in here. Ended up being a leg check. But my point is, after your opponent does something and it scores, you can probably expect them to try and do that again. And these guys are adjusting, like the micro adjustments that are happening is what I want you guys to notice. I think this ref's coming in a little bit too soon because they're still in action, right? It's not like dead action. I think the rule before was if it's 3 seconds of no action, that's when the ref comes in. There is still action and the ref is coming in. So in your matches, you're probably gonna have a little bit more time to try and set up something. This ref's coming in a little bit too often. Boom, nice try. That I might even call for a denial of game. Something you guys can do in this situation is look for that left. Oh, he did. Okay, perfect. Seighalani trying to set up that single leg cut. He might do a flick soon. Try to do it on that one. There you go. Different look. So Iran's good enough to score on the backside with that. So the reason for the first cut and the second cut, try and draw Jang Joon's hands in one direction. So if it's always on this front side, the hands will come a little bit more to the front. And then on the twist kick, that's obviously the back. Not able to score that, but that's what he was trying to set up there. Nice try. Bypass the front leg, get in. Try and score points. Bypass the front leg, try and get in and score points. Sticking to the same strat so far. Pretty good. So right now, both strategies are kind of at a standstill. They're not able to score using the strategy that's working for them so far. Gamjang for holding. Okay. Okay, so what the small adjustment that Iran's doing now is, instead of just doing the single and Jang Joon canceling it, he's trying to do the cancel, pull it back, and then flick. And so what Jang Joon is doing now is he's tying his legs up. He's tying Iran's legs up with his own leg. So here, cut. He almost, instead of pulling it back, Jang Joon raises his knee, and when he pulls it back, his foot gets caught in Jang Joon's foot, if that makes sense. I'll play it one more time slowly. You can see their legs get tangled here. I'm not sure if this is on purpose, but if it is on purpose, it's kind of genius by Jang Joon. Instead of pulling it back and letting him try and reset and, you know, just getting your arm there to beat it, he raises his knee to almost tangle the legs on purpose. Then mission objective 1 is complete. Get past the front leg. Now, all you have to do is try and score. Let's erase that's it. It's not on screen. Good. So Jang Joon's getting a little bit of advantage here. He's able to fully negate that front leg even on the cancel. He might use that again soon. Good. So you can see now that Jang Joon's raising his front knee even more. After the cancel, he raises it even more now. So that way, if Seighalani pulls it back, even if he does get back all the way, now he has to somehow get past the front leg of Jang Joon, whose leg is in the air as a shield. Well, nice try. A little bit of grabbing is allowed in the international play. I think a half second of grab is allowed. Last I heard. Apparently not. Seighalani trying to set up. Oh, nice try. That was a good try. You could see too that he got Jang Joon to flinch. He was short by a little bit. So here, going back to the bread and butter. Separate. I wish maybe 7-5. First cut, Jang Joon's hands are down. You can see that for a second, Jang Joon's hands flinched, and he used that opportunity to try and go for the head. Unfortunately, Jang Joon's backhand really prepared for that. Yeah, prepared to catch that kick by his face because he's a little bit wiser to that. Another option for Seighalani in this situation is use that same setup. Maybe try axe kick because his hand's in the back. So you can axe kick. It might be able to bypass that second hand, get there. Cut face. It might be a little bit hard to get Jang Joon's leg. But you know, these are other options for if you're in this situation, this guy's catching your front leg flick to face, you can try and change the target, because when you're facing someone, there's 3 targets. There's a side, there's a face, and then there's a side. Handipour's trying to go for this side. That means if he's using his hand to block this side already, the other 2 sides of the face, the other 2 areas are also open. But that's just my take. Easy critique, obviously, because I'm not actually fighting or doing any of these moves. I'm just sitting here talking about these guys. It's easy for me to say, probably really hard to execute on, but that's an idea for you guys to take home. If they're blocking one side of their face, another side of the face might be open, so you can try changing target that way. Good try. Ooh, good try again, especially because he knows Jang Joon's trying to mount that offense. Good try. So he's not going the 1-1-1-2. He's going 1-1-2. It's making Jang Joon guess a little bit more often. Yeah, so it's getting interesting. Let's move forward. Oh, okay. Oh, these are replays. So really quick before they start, let's think about what information Jang Joon has, what information Seighalani has. Seighalani knows same game plan as before. Jang Joon's going to try and cut in, get in close, use that left leg. All he has to do is deny that opportunity, make sure he's covering both body and his head, because Jang Joon's, just from outside analysis, we know Jang Joon has a monster left leg crescent kick. That thing is super dynamic. And you can see that as soon as he gets in, sometimes you can see Handipour flinching for the back of his head because he knows Jang Joon's good at that. If you're Jang Joon, it's a little bit tough because you've been negating his front leg, and you don't want to fight him at this distance, at range, because that's kind of where Seighalani wins. So your whole job is to bypass that front leg, get on the inside, and try and score points that way. Obviously, Seighalani is doing what he can to make sure that doesn't happen. He's also fighting back well in the clinch. So, as Jang Joon, the information you have to go with, I can't go backwards. I have to try and negate his front leg in place, and if I can bypass that, then I can try and score in the clinch. And we're tossing. It's a little bit of a coin toss in the clinch, just because Seighalani is smaller. He's pretty sharp at what he does, but it's better a coin toss in the clinch than moving backwards and getting scored on for sure. But yeah, for those of you guys who have seen this round, you already know what happened. If you guys haven't, just keep watching. Nice cut. So as much as he can, he's trying to make sure that Seighalani doesn't shove him backwards as often. Iran knows he has to mount the offense in order to score points, because that's how he scored his last couple points. And so that's what he's trying to do now. Really, really tight chess match between these two. Jang Joon's probably going to try, probably going to try and set up a move soon. He's just been canceling. You never, especially a higher level game, you never want to show the same variable or the same kick too many times, because that's how you get trapped. Is Jang Joon looking for that left leg? Still trying to bypass that front leg of Seighalani. Nice. So this kind of worked too because a lot of the initially, one, I think Jang Joon really understands his distance, but two, a lot of these initial exchanges where Iran is pressing the offense, which he's trying to do step kicks, so good to him. Korea kind of absorbs all of this, but if you notice from the last 30 seconds or so, Jang Joon didn't really do too much after his cut. All he did was cancel and reset, and then cancel and reset, and cancel and reset. It probably occurred to me, or not occurred to me, it probably occurred to Jang Joon, hey, there's probably opportunity to kick after that because I've been doing this for a little while, which means if I've been doing this for a little while over here, that means he's probably expecting it. So keep in mind that if you do something too often, one, you can get trapped, but if your opponent doesn't seem like they're adjusting what they're doing against what you're doing, that means you can set something up. It means they're playing the same variable over and over again, which makes it easy to trap. So it's a lot of cancel, right? That's the first, like, cancel. And then on that one, he engaged right away, came in. Different look for Seighalani, caught him by surprise a little bit. Tie game now. Still same mission objectives. Seighalani, yeah, trying to give those different looks. And the whole, nice try. Seighalani trying to still get those different looks. It's kind of difficult because Jang Joon's defense now is really good. He knows kind of exactly where Seighalani's going to be trying kicking, so he has those primary targets covered. Where's Seighalani probably going to go? Have my backhand up near my face in case he falls up to the face. Have my front hand pushing that cut kick to the side always, so that way he has a harder time following up. So for Jang Joon, he's not bleeding any more points, which is good. So now he has to think about, how am I going to get more points? And we already have the answer to that. The answer is get inside and use this left leg, because that's what he's been doing the whole time. Or in the case just before this, after you set a variable, cancel, 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 and then follow up, and it caught him by surprise. Seighalani kind of is having a harder time now because the targets that were open for him before are no longer open. So he has to try and find a different hole in Jang Joon's game. That's gonna be his struggle. And if you can find one, great, maybe you can exploit it. But if not, then it's gonna be a little bit more difficult. And there it is, and the window wiper. So we kind of knew this was coming. He does a great job here, though, setting up his left leg to be in the back here. So cancel, boom, boom. Seighalani's leg is still in the air, but he gave Jang Joon's leg too much space here to get the kickoff. And so usually what Iran was doing before, separate, let's do this at 7-5 so it doesn't take too long. Iran was doing before is he's very active at closing the gap really quick. Here, a little bit, this happens sometimes, just a little bit of overshot, boom. Jang Joon steps in, and as you can see, his leg is not down. He's not ready to pivot. He's not ready to turn or to block at all. And so in this situation, as soon as Jang Joon's leg is off the ground, it's a kind of 50-50 proposition for the body or for the face. And since Jang Joon in these situations more often has been going to the body, I can imagine that's probably where instinctually, that's where Seighalani put his arm, and Joon Jang, great job capitalizing, threw it to his head. And that's how the points got in. 1, 2. And I mean, the second one, headshot, is kind of just a give me. It's not a strategically, like, he planned that to be like that. It's just part of the game. Congrats to Jang Joon, realizing the opportunity that Seighalani had overshot by a little bit, and he was able to get his feet down before Jang Joon's set up for that crescent kick, before Seighalani could be ready to try and defend it. So this is going to be really hard. This is really hard for Seighalani because his primary targets, the targets he's been going for before, are now covered. He hasn't scored since like the first round. And so Jang Joon's defense now, pretty solid. He's ahead by 2 head kicks. And so Seighalani has to pull something out of the hat. He has to try something he hasn't either shown before. He has to try and find a different opening. And what makes it extra difficult for Seighalani is that this ref actually does not let them clinch for that long. On the inside, Seighalani's upper body strength, more often than not, it looked like Jang Joon was going backwards. Yeah, he has this monster left leg. Yes, it's very dynamic. Yes, it has the ability to score points. But in the clinch, more often than not, Seighalani was the one shoving Jang Joon backwards. And so I think the other factor that's going to be hard for Seighalani is that this ref does not let them clinch for very long, which means he has less time in the clinch to set up for stuff, or less time in the clinch to try and find holes in Jang Joon's game. Because it seems like Jang Joon now has his outside game covered. He hasn't scored in a long, like I said, he hasn't scored in a long time. So one of the only options left is for Seighalani to find the hole in the clinch game, but the ref doesn't allow for very much time, which kind of sets Seighalani back even further. Oh, what? That's not the mouse. That's another mark. Boom. 1, 2. See, that's what I'm saying. Like here, there's that one's actually not too bad because it's they're chest to chest already. Something coming out of this is pretty unlikely. Boom. See right there though, they're still kind of struggling. That's still time for Seighalani to maybe just wrap his leg around the backside if he's able to get stable enough. Wrap around the backside of Jang Joon's head. There's still a lot of things that could happen there, but because the ref breaks it so quickly, Iran has to find the opening really fast, and he has to try something that hasn't even, he has to try something, period. And the ability to replicate or to condition your opponent to think one thing is very limited. Like let's say for example, Seighalani wants to use his left leg to set up a left out in crescent kick. One way to do that is to get in the clinch and immediately try for the body. But because he closes so often, or because the ref comes in so often, you never get the chance to kick. Therefore, your opponent's never conditioned. Therefore, setting up the out in becomes harder. Trying to find more variables. Getting kind of rough. Time's ticking down. That's a gumjang. Okay. A little bit in Seighalani's favor. So Korea's exploiting this to the maximum. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but he's not moving back at all. One, because he knows if he moves backwards, that's where Seighalani scored on him the first time, so he knows not to not move back. But a lot of Korea's not even really looking to score that much. If I just get in a clinch, the ref's gonna call you. That takes off a couple seconds. Well, I mean, in that instance, he knows Seighalani is just constantly moving, and that one actually surprised me a little bit. What I've been trying to say though was Korea's exploiting this, that the ref's coming in a lot by just clinching, because if he clinches when he comes in, that's about a half second. When he comes out, that's about a half second of time off the clock. So he's eating Handipour's clock right now. The other side factor is, he probably was setting it up just before I even thought about it, was if I cancel and then cancel and cancel and all we do is that, Handipour over here, Seighalani is going to think about, he's probably just going to cancel when I come in, and then I can try and open up and try and score points that way. Jang Joon maximizes that by going on an axe kick, knowing that Seighalani is probably just going to move in now, putting his lead up even further. So this is what I'm kind of saying. Like Seighalani here in the clinch, actually, let's go beyond this a little bit. It's head kicked right here. Seighalani in the clinch has a lot of options he can try and throw, and Jang Joon is getting tossed around, right? Like gumjang for him. I mean, there's some holding. Holding is a little bit allowed in international game, right? So that's where Iran can maximize. Those are where it seems like the hole in Jang Joon's game is we can exploit the fact that he's not as strong as you in the clinch, try for shots in the clinch. But it's hard to do that because the ref is coming in every 2 or 3 seconds, even if there's action going on in the clinch. So separated, break, punch. Not bad. Trying to just do a different look. So Seighalani is holding his leg here because he knows Jang Joon can snap this leg. Or one of them is to make sure that he's off balance to set up a kick. But also because if that leg is up there, you can also jump up, and if you flick it hard enough, that's going to score points. And he doesn't want that to happen, so I'd rather just have control of the leg. A little bit of grabbing. International game, like I said, was deemed okay. There you go. Now the ref isn't... They're still playing. Okay, for grabbing. Card, obviously, to use... But... Like I said, so Handipour has to find a way to score points in the clinch, and Granted, the ref is a little bit against this. Maybe in the future matches, this is information he can use against Jang Joon in the future. But we won't really know until they fight each other again. Denied. I'm not. I think it's to overturn the holding call. Oh, he got a head point. He got a headshot in here. Nice. Okay. So we know that's the hold in the game, especially because earlier he almost scored that. If you try and score that again, he's a little bit short on the time now. Like I said, if he was behind a minute with about a minute left. If the ref didn't come in sooner, if the ref didn't come in as often, he may have been able to figure this hole out with 30 seconds on the board or whatever. And that would have given him obviously more time and information to try and set that up in this situation. I think I just marked his face. Oh, he's trying to get his face out of there. Holding. So as Korea, how do you weather the storm? One is you can do like you're doing before. You can meet him halfway and then try and lock down the game right away. One way to do that is you can either put your arms around him, like pretend you're hugging someone from the outside and kind of force his shoulders, force it so he can't grab you as much anymore, and then you have control over the top. What that doesn't really allow though is if he's opening to the body, he has the option to pull your arm up because your arm's around his, pull it up and then kick underneath. Another way to do it, which I would not do at Jang Joon's height, is you can lock underneath the armpits. I have a couple of videos on that already. If you need a link to that or whatever, just shoot it my way. That's another option to do. But it's in Korea's best interest to one, he can't really go back because that's where Jang Joon, if he notices Korea's going back too much, might just go back into his first game, which scored the points initially. That's not a good situation for you to be in. Two, for Korea, you can try and score some points, meet him halfway, try and score points that way, which I might be doing with a mix of trying to get inside in the clinch and close it and lock it down. So in order for Korea to weather this, his goal should be to either try and exchange with Seighalani here, just so it's not clinching every time, and then mix that in with clinching and locking it down. Seighalani just needs to replicate that out in crescent kick again. If Korea's constantly moves in, he needs to either hit that again or which he does. Close, nice try. Or use that out in setup to set up something else. A little bit short on time here for Seighalani when he found that hole. And nice Jun Jang. That's what I was saying. That's exactly what I was saying. He knows he's coming in. You can try and exchange on the outside knowing Seighalani has to come. Boom. Points. Lock it down. Trying to go for some points there. I would personally just locked it down. Nice try. Too little, too late for Seighalani. So good match between these two guys. Both of them very world-class fighters. A lot to learn on both sides about subtly adjusting strategy. Subtly adjusting strategy and technique. Like very small minor adjustments are making the difference in the game. And it was really just Seighalani's single time where he overshot, and Jang Joon was able to get his feet down in position faster and follow up with his double outing crescents, which gave Jang Joon the lead and all the ammunition he needed to handle the rest of Seighalani. Seighalani, granted, the ref could have been a little less proactive on breaking them up and stuck to, when you really see no action, that's when you break up the fight. That would have helped Seighalani a little bit, but for the most part, great job, both of these fighters. Overall recap, I guess if I could sum up this fight in like one phrase, it's use the variables that you were exploiting before or that you're using before to set up your points. And I think that's been the battle cry for a long time. Is it's not just random kicks. Don't just take away, that out in crescent kick looked awesome, maybe we should just add that to my game. It's how and why did it work in that context. Or Seighalani's cancel into the cut flick to the face. It's not just a cut flick to the face works every time. It works because Seighalani sets that up by going cut, and then cut face, where he's drawing the opponent's hands down. And you can see Seighalani do this a lot. I mean, with a twist kick, with mixing it up even faster, going cut face, keeping his opponent's hands guessing. And even when he got adjusted against, where he would cut and then Jang Joon cancel with the hand, Seighalani started going cut, pull back, and then try and score again. And so Jang Joon's answer to that one up was cut with a hand cancel and raise my front knee a little bit more, and that'll either make it hard for you to pull back, or that side of my body's gonna be that side of my body will be covered anyway. But yeah, guys, so that's it for this week. I'm going to be covering more of the CHIBA final fights as the weeks go on, so please stay tuned. If you guys find some value in this, please like, subscribe, or comment. I really, really appreciate that stuff. And if you guys want me to cover your own fights, shoot me a private message, write me a comment down below. We can get in contact. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.